You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service, your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons, that's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us, 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Emilio. He's still stuck in the 70s up there. We got him down here in Tennessee. We got Jacob in the house, too. He's on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. Got the Magnum PI shirt kicking today. And we got a special guest tonight. We got Miss Carly Ray. Carly, how you doing? Oh, you're muted.
It's been too long. She doesn't remember how to do it.
It has. I'm out of my rhythm here. No, it's doing great. Glad to be here talking football with y'all.
Awesome. Good stuff. Did y'all have a good day, fellas? Everything good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was hot. Carly, was it hot where you were? It was like 80-ish.
Dude, you live like 18 minutes away from me. What are you talking about?
It was breezy, though. It was nice.
It was breezy. The sun is always warm.
It was
hot but breezy. Yep.
All right, there you go. We got good unity tonight. So,
kind of like your shirt.
Ooh, starting off early, Jacob. Minute
That's
in,
a
you're already
compliment.
getting roasted.
That is a
compliment.
That being said, let's talk some Packers. Obviously, the Kenny Clark contract came down the pike a couple days ago. We got the details now, so we're going to dive into that tonight. Also, going to talk a little bit of Jordan Love and the latest on that contract situation, and then just a couple other things, maybe some X's and O's. I know Carly had something she wanted to hit on as well that Jake Shavink had shared with us. And, anything y'all want to dive into, we'll do it. Obviously the Packers were off today. We take a quick glance at the training camp schedule. They were off. If I understood correctly, they were actually off today. It wasn't just that it wasn't a public practice. So sounded like they had the day off. And I'm sure the guys were still in the building doing something. Tomorrow, obviously got a 10:30 a.m. Central practice up there at Ray Nitschke Field unless the weather drives them inside. And then Saturday, I think the pads come on. So everybody's kind of chomping at the bit over this Jordan Love contract. Like I said, we'll get to it here in just a second. Found a few statistics that came across the wire there on X earlier today as well. Just kind of talking about Jordan Love playing under pressure, things like that. Really, really cool stats that just shows you why he is in the running to be, arguably the highest paid quarterback in the league. So when you see some of these numbers that we're going to share, it's like, yeah, that second half was epic. No doubt about it. It seems like every week I find something else and I'm like, he did that? Golly. So obviously about to get paid. But let's talk the Kenny Clark contract. Let's kind of start with a cough. And with the old contract in mind here, okay? So this was the structure of the old contract, and you heard us talk about it the other day. We mentioned the voidable years, how he had a void year in 2026, 2027, and, of course, in 2025. Now, if they were to not bring him back on the roster, what was going to happen is those voidable years that they had money, the restructure proration of 5.4, 5.4, then 2.7 million spread out, that would accelerate to the current year of 2025. Well, obviously, we don't have to worry about that because Kenny Clark was brung back. Now, you heard a multitude of numbers when Kenny Clark's contract was announced, right? You heard the money he was going to make this year. I think the number they threw out was $29 million. You heard the signing bonus of $17 million. You heard the average annual, which was, what was that? I think it was somewhere around 20 or so, somewhere around there. So what we're going to show you is exactly how the contract is structured, okay, how the cap is allocated here. So with Kenny Clark's new contract, you notice the voidable years are now gone. They're now filled in, right? And it looks to me, if this is correct on Spot Track, that they kept the restructure proration in place, okay? So they didn't adjust that at all. Again, if we hop back up one more time and show you the old, you see the 5.4, 5.4 2.7, right? And then if you go to the new one, you still see the 5.4, 5.4, and the 2.7 in the restructure proration. So that did not change. Now, here's the thing. What do we always talk about? When a contract's signed, if it's a 4-year deal, it's really a 3-year deal. This is how the Packers like to do business. If it's a 3-year deal, it's really a 2-year deal. And what I mean by that is the Packers can get out of that contract as if that last year doesn't even exist, even though there will be some cap penalty attached. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Okay, so first things first, in the old contract, look at the cap hit. All right, the cap hit in 2024 was $27.4 million, right? So that was going to be his cap number for the 2024 season, the current season that we're in. Well, if you look at it now, that cap number has now gone up to 26.3, right? Or I'm sorry, came down to 26.3. So you actually got about a $900,000 discount this year against the cap. If that makes sense. Okay, so the way that that's structured in 2024 now, a base salary of $10 million, the signing proration of 9.3, the restructure proration from his previous contract of 5.4. You get a roster / GM bonus, which it specifies at the bottom down there in 2020 starting in 2024 per game active bonus of $44,000 for every game he's active. That totals out to $750,000. That's just that extra roster / GM bonus. Workout bonus of $700,000, which I'm sure he's already earned. That's just if he meets, I think it's 80% or 90% participation in the offseason workout program with the Packers. His new cap hit $26.3 million. Cap percent allocation is 10.3%. And the dead cap attached this year, obviously 41.7. Now, you're not looking to sign him to a contract and then cut him the same year, right? It goes without saying. But here's what I wanted to point out. This was a 3-year extension, so he's already under contract for 2024. So you got a 25, 26, and 27 extension, okay? Notice how you've got your cap hit. Really keying on the cap hit, the column that's highlighted here. For those of you on the podcast, we're talking about the cap hit column and the dead cap column, okay? So when it's a 3-year deal, it's really just a 2-year deal, meaning if you look at 2027 and pretend like it isn't even there, the true contract is in 2024, cap hit of $26.3 million. In 2025, cap hit of $20.3 million. Look at the dead cap in 25, $26.8 million. So what that means is if they were to cut base next year, he's still going to count $6.8 million against their cap roughly, and you don't have him on the roster. Now, what did the previous contract say? He wasn't going to be on the roster, and you're going to have a $13.7 million cap hit. So this is kind of the business background that I have. This is the way I look at this. You were going to either go without Kenny for $13.7 million against your cap, or you get him and it's only $20.3 million. So $7 million more, and he's actually on your roster. Now, people go, well, that's going to hurt you down the road, Clayton. No, check this out. In 2026, his cap hit jumps to $31.3 million. But now look at the dead cap. The dead cap's only $17 million. I think they plan on him being on the roster in 2026 as well. But you've got so much maneuverability there. They're probably saying if he does take a drop-off with his play, then you do some kind of restructure. Have him take a pay cut, sweeten the pot, convert some of that 8.8 base salary into signing bonus to make it worth his while, to guarantee a little bit more, but take a little bit less overall. And then in 2027, what I mean by a 3-year deal is really a 2-year deal. In 2027, his cap hit is $27.1 million. If they were to cut bait with him before the 2027 season, his dead cap's only 7.1. So you're going to free up $20 million in cap and have a dead cap penalty of only $7.1 million. The other day, you remember we were talking about it, Jacob, Emilio, you probably remember me saying this. I said, I expect the cap penalty for the final of that 3-year deal to be somewhere between $5 and $9 million. We hit it right on the head at 7.1. Yep. So that's how that kind of plays out.
No, definitely does.
Thoughts, comments. You look at the way it's structured here. This is kind of like an extremely high floor for the defensive tackle room, right? Because I don't think if they knew Devontae Wyatt was going to be the guy and they're like, oh, yeah, this dude's going to be a stud, they probably wouldn't have done this. So I think there's still some question marks around Devontae Wyatt. They're going to see how Carl Brooks develops. And you got Kenny Clark for 2 years with essentially a third-year team option. What's your all's thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Emilio, but Clayton kind of just stole what I was thinking. This looks like a great contract, at least for the next 2 years, and it gives us that kind of uh, buffer zone to see, like, hey, what's Wyatt going to turn into? What's Brooks going to turn into? What's Wooden going to turn into? And we can maybe reevaluate and see if we're going to tweak some things or if we want to make a decision on Kenny going forward. But it also gives us another 2 years of drafting and developing other guys at the D line, which we haven't even thought about yet. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
I personally have been up and down with Kenny his whole career. I was a little bit up and down with the fact that we extended him. I want him. I basically want most Packers to stay. I didn't expect him to get a third contract, but at the same time I did, just because of how ridiculously young he was when he came in the league. Wasn't he like 20 or something? I mean, he was really young.
Pretty
So
much.
it's I hope that he uses this as a catalyst and that he has a couple great years under Hafley. And who knows if this is like that, if Hafley is as good as everything seems like it's going right now, and if the defensive line is firing off the ball, and if every single other positional group besides the D, tackles are stacked, I think it's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it, Jacob. So just for reference, I was just trying to pull it up to see. I looked up interior D-line contracts. This is from Over the Cap. Top player is Chris Jones with 158 million value with 750,000 or 31 million per year average. And Kenny doesn't even hit that until, like Clayton was saying, the 2026 year. People around Kenny in his contract right now, based off their per year average, would be Deron Payne from the Commanders, Dexter Lawrence, Giants, Leonard Williams, Seahawks, Kenny Clark, Packers, Javon Hargrave, 49ers, and Christian Barmore, Patriots. Kind of all around the same number there. And the total guaranteed is Kenny at 17.5 is the absolute cheapest. So they were working the numbers right, and honestly, I'm not mad about it at all. He's worked hard for this. He's a great guy, and it's about culture, and Kenny's got it. So
one thing you just said too, like Emilio gave you kind of the average, the overall average, right? That's one way to look at it. Now, people were asking, then why is Kenny's cap hit so high this year? Because when you look at it now with the new number, Kenny has the highest cap hit amongst all defensive tackles, right? The reason being is how we always talk about the Packers like to play with cash. They like to get this out of the way. All right, let's get the worst part over with, and now we got options on the backside of the contract, and that's essentially what you're seeing here. So yeah, the rate in which, or the order in which it goes now in 2024 is Kenny Clark is the highest cap hit amongst defensive tackles at 26.3. Aaron Donald, who's not even on the roster, 25 million. Jeffrey Simmons, 21.6. Deron Payne, 21.6. Jonathan Allen, 21.4. Vita Vea, 20.9. Quinnen Williams, 20.4. That Quinnen Williams contract, that cap hit, man, that's some good business over there with the Jets. I can't deny it. Dexter Lawrence, too, 14.5. That dude's a stud. Yeah. So it's cool to kind of see what's going on around the league. Carly, you got anything you want to add to this? Any questions, comments, anything at all? I know Bates kind of I felt his comment here, but you just insert Mandy's name instead. He said that this contract looked like his Amazon order sheet. Yeah. That's how it goes over here. But what do you think, Carly?
Oh, I agree with what Jacob said, and Emilio too, I guess. Just having paying him now and then having some of that flexibility for when some of our younger players, just seeing how they show up, and hopefully being able to keep them at maybe a little less money to stick around. But just letting him. He's worked hard. I want to pay him. I'm happy for our guys to feel valued.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if you were to grade Kenny, I've been very vocal that I feel like he's been overpaid. That's just me personally. And I'm not saying I'm right and anyone who disagrees is wrong. That's just based off of stuff that I think is most important at the defensive tackle position, right? And I've mentioned it before. We'll mention it again. Pressure percentage, he was 27th amongst defensive tackles in pressure percentage. Sacks combined, he was 10th. That's the big money maker. That's what got him paid right there, right? That dude went out and got, I think he recorded his highest sack total of his career, if I remember correctly. Right. Broken/missed tackle percentage, he was 141st amongst defensive tackles at 10.2%. That hurts, right? And then his PFF grade was 35th at a 70.4. And like I said, if you take those four things into consideration, which I do, I think they're important. He averages out to about the 53rd best defensive tackle. But again, it's just like with the offensive lineman. You know, we talk about how people can't run block, right? Well, they don't pay you to run block in the NFL. They pay you to pass block. That's just the way it is. Same thing here. You get after the quarterback, you're going to get that money.
Mhm.
Now, if you were to grade Kenny out as the person, as the team leader, as the ambassador for the Green Bay Packer brand, A++. Dude has just done everything right. And he stayed healthy. That's something else too, right? Availability, accountability. He has crushed those two aspects of his game for sure.
Mhm.
So let's see what everybody says in the chat here real quick. M. Smitty says 14 million savings in 26 if things are not, or if they are not going well. So what he means by that, and I think that's a good eye there, Smitty. In 2026, listen, I don't even want to speak this into the universe, but let's say Kenny has just a mediocre year this year, and we come out in 2026 and we think, you know what, we want to cut base with him. You can free up $14 million in cap space by just cutting him in 2026. So I hope that doesn't happen, but it just shows you what Goody's thinking here. This is kind of a year-to-year contract. It really is. And Kenny looked at it like, hey, I'm 30 years old. I can get 17 million guaranteed right now. We can restructure this contract on down the road if things aren't going great. I'm sure that's how he kind of looked at it as well. So great comment there, Smitty. Completely agree, man. Let's see here. Professor Cake says, agree. Pay him the big money now before Love's new contract takes effect. And that's exactly what we've seen here. What's going to happen with Love this year? He's like 12 million against the cap.
Right.
Well, next year, his number, if it compares to some of the other quarterback contracts like Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, people like that, what's going to happen is his cap number, I think I've actually got that still. And we'll get into Love contract talk again here in just a second. But, yeah, here's Joe Burrow's. You'll notice when he got his deal, he only jumped to like 29 million, right? And then it goes to, you know, he got his deal. Actually, it hugged around 19.5. Then it jumped to 29.7. I expect Jordan Love's cap hit number next year to be somewhere in the upper 20s, maybe lower 30s. Some people are thinking when they hear 60 million per year, 50 million per year, they're thinking that's the cap hit. That will not be the case. And there's rumors swirling that it's actually going to be a much longer deal. Like I heard a couple people say today, it might be more along the lines of the Pat Mahomes deal. I don't think they'll go 10 years, but if they go over 5 years, we're going to have all kinds of maneuverability under the cap. So that makes sense.
Can I actually ask a question about Professor Cake's comment here?
Yeah.
Because I thought I understood it, and then now I'm a little more confused. So it says before Love's new contract takes effect. So once that contract is set, are you guys saying, or is that saying that it's not taking effect till the next season, or does it take effect right away?
That's a great question. Many people get confused with this. Look at Kenny's deal right here. Okay. That 2024 number, his new contract doesn't technically start until 2025. Okay. But you still have the maneuverability that you can push if the contract is signed before the season, you can push some of that up to the front side of the contract, or you can just backload it or spread it out evenly. So with Jordan Love in this case, if this was Jordan Love, his 2024 cap hit number, it can change. Just like we lowered Kenny's slightly, you'll be able to lower Jordan's if you wanted to, or you can raise it. I imagine to be somewhere in the middle. I could see him raising Jordan's number to somewhere between, 13 to 20 million this year. That way it's not as big of a jump next year. But yeah, to answer your question, Carly, that doesn't take effect until the next year, although you can utilize that current year on the contract to allocate towards the cap. If that makes sense. So that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure did. And what you said about like a Pat Mahomes sort of deal, I was actually thinking about that today and kind of hoping, I wonder if they're trying to negotiate like, hey, I'll take, an 8-year contract. We'll make it kind of team friendly, but then you have to pay all these wide receivers. You can't get rid of any of them for the next 7 to 8 years also.
Yeah.
Well, I want them all to stay.
And he probably wants guarantees throughout the years,
Yeah.
In the 5th year, he still wants to be guaranteed whatever million.
That's what I was going to say, is kind of like we just touched on the Kenny thing. And it's Brian Gutekunst's, I think, specialty is that he works these contracts with a escape route, like if in case of emergency, break glass here. And I'm pretty sure that's what Mulugeta and them are probably negotiating on is like, hey, dude, if you don't think he's the guy in 2 years, guess what? You're going to pay us for at least 4 or something along those lines. You know what I'm saying? So I guarantee you it's a chess battle right now. Goody thinks, he's going to have the last move, and I know Mulugeta thinks he's going to have the last move. So I really do think it's the finite details of how it's structured. It's not just the big gaudy number that everybody wants to see. But I'd be pumped if it's a longer. I'm convinced on Love. I don't need to see anymore. I want to pay the guy. If anything else, there's only going to be a higher ceiling than what we've seen. His floor right now, just pay him. Just pay him. Right. I would take him over Trevor Lawrence. I'd take him over Tua. I'd take him over Dak. I'd take him over most people in this league.
And the only thing that bothers me, they should have did it in May.
I know.
He should have the Goff contract. Is what
Are we going to move into that now, or do you have something else to say? Because I am starting to get worried. I'm not going to lie. I was expecting it today.
We got something else. I just want to hit this real quick.
All right.
I love it, man. The anxiety in your voice, bro, is hilarious. All right, so one other thing to talk about when you heard me talk about restructure, his cap hit this year, his being Kenny's, is $26.3 million. Next year, it drops to 20.3. All right.
You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service, your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us.
But in 2026, it jumps to 31.3. So some people see that and they think, man, that's a big cap number. Here's what I mean by they could possibly do a restructure. They could go to Kenny. There's two different ways. There's multiple ways they can go about it, but the two that are most common is they can go to Kenny and go, okay, your base salary, focus on 2026 here, okay? The base salary is $8.8 million. What if we cut that in half? All right. Actually, what if we drop that down to $6.8 million and we fully guaranteed it? There's where you can shave off $2 million. You see what I'm saying? Because what you do is you would shave that off to 6.8, and then you couldn't do the full 6.8, but just theoretically speaking, let's say it's $5 million. Okay. So you shave it off to 6.8. Let's say the veteran minimum is 1.8, whatever it may be. And then you convert that $5 million to signing bonus. Well, now you can push that signing bonus money out over the duration of the contract, meaning you could tack it on to 2027, or the second option is you can tack on a couple of voidable years like they did before and then spread that signing proration out, or that restructure proration, I should say, out over those voidable years to lower that cap number. So if he's completely balling out next year and their back is against the wall with the cap, which I personally don't think it'll be, I think as it sits right now, their cap number next year, I think they're $51 million under the cap right now. So now keep in mind, that's not signing their free agents. That's not signing Jordan Love yet. All those things that are very, very important. Although I think Love might have a voidable year next year. So there's already like $5 million allocated to the cap next year. So again, I'm not one of these people that say the salary cap is fake. I am one of these people that are going to call the doom and gloomers out on their BS 99.9% of the time, because all the salary, when it comes to the salary cap, the reason it is real, the way that it is most real is it's very, very, very time sensitive. If you don't have your ducks in a row, like Jacob was just talking about, then you're going to find yourself back into the corner like you were the year that we had to cut Zadarius Smith. If you guys remember that. It wasn't that we couldn't have used Zadarius Smith. It wasn't that we didn't necessarily want Zadarius Smith, although he did rock the boat with the whole captain stuff that we ain't going to get back into. But you ran out of time there. Same thing with Devontae Adams. He wanted a deal the year before, right? We stretched it in the final year. We thought he would just, Goody thought he could call his bluff, and this is just my opinion, and get him to play on the franchise tag. Well, Tay bucked up and said, I'm not playing under the franchise tag. So they had to trade him. You ran out of time there. It's essentially what had happened. Now, I personally think it was better for the Packers long-term that Devontae Adams did move on, just because look at the wide receiver room now. We got, I think if it's not the cheapest, it's the next to cheapest wide receiver room in the entire league. And it's one of the most dynamic.
No, it's the cheapest.
It is the cheapest too.
Yeah.
That worked out pretty good, and those are the gambles you take. But Jacob, let's jump into the next topic. I know you're excited about this. So Diana Rossini put this out earlier today. Okay. Paul Brettel tweeted it or reposted, I should say, and it popped up on my timeline. Packer fans and many around the league are all waiting to hear if Jordan Love's new big contract is complete. Based on my conversations today, it's all making progress and heading there, just not done at this time. So who did she talk to? That's the question, right? She most likely spoke to the agent, is what I would imagine, the agency. So now think about this. Why would the agent put out information saying it's almost there? Do you think they're maybe feeling a little bit of pressure?
Pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So you could see Goody's kind of holding firm, and you guys know where I stand on this. I think they should pay that man his money, right? But it seems right now the pendulum's kind of swinging back a little bit now, and it's like a little more pressure on Love. I don't think the agency's like, we got to get this done right now. I'm wondering, and it's just me personally, Jordan Love being the hell of a leader that he is and the teammate that he is, if he didn't go to that agent and go, hey, listen, we need to get this done. If we got to give up a little bit, we got to give up a little bit. Maybe I'm giving Jordan too much credit, but what I've seen on a personal standpoint, I think he's that kind of guy. Kind of the TJ Watt. You guys remember TJ Watt? Yeah. Hold in. He said, screw it, walked off the practice field, went upstairs, met with the owner. They closed the door. A few minutes later, they had the deal done. He bypassed his agents completely. I'm not saying Jordan's going to that extreme, but I bet Jordan kind of said, hey, we need to get this done. And that also sends a signal back to Goody. If that comes through the media, we're getting closer. That makes him feel like, okay, yeah. Because everybody makes it sound like Goody's just on the phone with them constantly. Or Russ Ball is probably the one who's got the most communication right now.
Right.
That's not the case, right? But, Jacob, I shared that to hopefully give you a little bit of peace, but you have the floor, sir. How you feeling?
No, I mean, the only problem is we've seen that exact tweet for the last 3 weeks straight, every single day. And today it was kind of self-anointed by Emilio, and then I kind of just took it over and assumed that Thursday was going to be signing day, just because it made so much sense. He'd been here. He was here just like the hold in. You know, I gave him benefit of the doubt. Not benefit of the doubt, but I thought that was a great move by him to kind of say, hey, I'm not going to come in because I'm not going to get hurt, but I'm going to be here for the team. I'm literally going to stand outside in the middle of a Castaway-style rainstorm. You know what I mean? All he was missing was the Wilson ball. Wilson, all that. Like, I respect that for him. He could just be sitting out there. You know, he could easily go in and sit inside and just watch him and kind of, you know, he didn't. He was there. He was showing that he wants to be part of the team. This was the perfect opportunity other than a week ago to sign the guy, get him ready. We got the pads on. We're going into the weekend. The crowd would be pumped. We'd have everything to be talking about we could ever want over the weekend. So much content, but instead, no, we just got to sit here and wait again. So I am just like we talked about how there's no pads yet, you know, still in shorts and all that. And the offensives look terrible. So at this point, I'm not blaming Love, but I do want our team, for the benefit of our team, I want our starting quarterback in the mix, especially on day one when we have pads on. I know that you guys, anybody that's played sports, I'm sure even Carly too, especially at the beginning of a year when you miss any sort of the prep or the preseason or the intro games or any of that, you are a few games back. Your cardio, your game speed, everything. It just is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I want him to be up to speed with everyone right away. That's all I'll say.
That's
it. Mic dropped.
One thing I will say, Jacob, you said they've been saying this all week. To me, this feels different because I haven't seen Diana Rossini say this week, right? Also, Pro Football Talk, Mr. Anti-Packers, he tweeted out earlier, Jordan Love deal is, quote, pretty close, we're told. Not done yet, but moving in that direction. And both sides have every reason to expedite an agreement and get him on the practice field. So you're starting to see multiple tweets go out now specifically. Now, Adam Schefter yesterday, I believe it was, said he expected it to be done this week. Now, all of a sudden, you get these big names tweeting it out. And I know it's fun to go, you didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. I got you. But I think there again, where is that coming from is the key, the key, what am I trying to say here? Point. Mm-hmm. They're having communication with most likely the player's agency, and that's kind of pushing things along now. So
I think the absolute deadline that would be a heartbreaker for me if he wasn't there. It's just what Ron said at the family night. Like that is such a great, I went to the first one ever. It is a really cool event, and they've made it even way cooler than the first time we went. It was basically just kind of a glorified scrimmage, and now they've got so many more events and fireworks and the family stuff and the title town, all this. It's so cool now. It really is. So I really want him to be there just so that, everything seems copacetic. I hope. I don't want any rocking the boat.
Yeah, and here's the thing: whether he's got a contract or not, he's going to be at family night, right? He's just not going to be suited up. He'll be out there. He'll go out with the team. They'll probably introduce him and all that stuff. So that's why I'm like, man, this dude has done everything, right?
Yeah, and Jordan Love loves ball. So that's where it comes back to your point, Clayton, of maybe he's like, all right, we need to speed this up. I want to get back out there. Yeah, he doesn't need it. I mean, he needs it obviously, but he could get away with missing a week of pads and still be able to start no problem. Like the issue is he just misses playing football, right? He's worked his entire life to get to this point.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny too. Blake B said, anyone worried about Clifford and Pratt yet? As Jacob was talking, and he was talking about how the offense has sputtered and things have looked really, really bad. Y'all remember last year when people were calling for Sean Clifford because Jordan was struggling?
Oh, I told him to take the big red dog out for a walk and bring him back inside because that's it, dude. Unbelievable, man.
And here's what's crazy is like Clifford is being asked to do things he hasn't done before right now with the first team offense. Like not everybody. Many people like to pretend like nothing has changed for Clifford. He's just taking reps with the ones now. It was mentioned on Wildy and Tausch, like he's throwing routes that he hasn't thrown in Green Bay. And what they mean by that, if you really dig into those comments, it's choice routes. This offense is choice route central. And if you're not on the same page if the receiver isn't on the same page with the coach, meaning the scheme, right? And the quarterback isn't on the same page with the coach and the scheme. And then on top of that, the quarterback and the receiver aren't on the same page because the quarterback's not reading his keys that he's given the quarterback that, hey, I'm going to run this route in real time. Mm-hmm. It's really, really sophisticated the way the choice routes work. So I'm not looking at – here's what I'm trying to say. If you put Sean Clifford in a game, I think he would perform way better than what he's doing in practice right now. Because right now his offensive linemen can't block because there's no pads. The rush is getting in their face like crazy when they run those type of drills, right? There's so many things that are working against Sean Clifford, Michael Pratt right now that I don't look at it and go, man, they're horrible. I really don't. We do this every year. And I'm not frustrated. Like people can, it is what it is. But I remember for as long as I've been following training camp, every single summer, the defense dominates. Because I remember going, is this the year Aaron falls off? Because he's throwing picks. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? In training camp, that's the time to stretch the limits, right? Right, I mean, you got to test the limits in practice so you don't have to do it on Sunday.
And everyone's saying Clifford's the second coming of Favre, and I could believe it, right? So why would he not let it fly? If everyone's not – I mean, if we're not used to seeing picks, come on now.
Yeah, absolutely. Respect Orange just hit it here. The sky's falling. Go ahead, Carl.
And, well, what Ron said, he said, I'm more worried about the other guys on offense not getting good work without Jordan in defense as well. I think the big thing is without not having pads, like nobody's getting realistic good work. Really. It's just honestly, part of me is like, I don't even know why some of it they do it. Like the practices are like an hour and a half long. Like really? So I'm glad Clifford's getting these reps. I think it's going to be helpful if, God forbid, he ever does have to go out in a game. I want him to at least gotten some of these looks before, see what it looks like when these things don't work out and he has to think on his feet. Like I'm all for getting him some actual good practice. Hopefully we never need it, but this is the best time for him to have to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's just it is what it is, man. This time of year, things are a little hectic for the offense. And I think actually Coach Lynn hit on that. He said offense is working on install still. They are not scheming up our defense. So the defense is just sitting back there. It's like stealing Mountain Dew from a baby down here in Appalachia. You know what I'm saying? Like they are just they're having the time of their life. Now, when the pads come on and you get, past preseason week 2 into week 3 and more of the install is put into place, you'll start to see the offense begin to catch up with the defense for sure. So that's a great point though, Coach. Appreciate it. Good to see you in here, bub. Let's see what else we have. We had a couple more here. United Bates says, I will 100% take our offseason issue of a Love contract, which will get done over some of the other teams' issues. Like I think what Bates is saying is I'd rather us be working out a contract with a good quarterback than to have a sucky one, right? I think is pretty much what he's saying. And there are plenty of teams in the league that does not have good quarterback play, man. And we'll talk about what Jordan did last year because I was looking at some of these stats. It's like, holy cow, man, that's phenomenal. M. Smitty said, Clayton, this is a great point. Wasn't this what Matt LaFleur said was one of the biggest issues in the first half of last year, not being on the same page? I'll take it a step further, Smitty. It was the same thing he was saying in 2022 because it was way worse in 2022 because all those choice routes we're talking about, two factors. LaFleur was limited on which receivers he could put in the flyer position, the F position, because the F has got to know how to run every choice route in the playbook. And the only person that we really had to do that, and he didn't play flyer much, was Lazard and, of course, Cobby, right? So you're talking about two guys who were on the one who's been pretty much overrated and the other who's now working for the SEC network, right? So the young receivers don't even know how to run the choice routes in 2022. That's how people were going. Aaron Rodgers sucks. He stinks. And then you heard Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner going, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Look at the routes and how they're running them. And he knows how the route's supposed to be ran. He can tell with the way the receiver breaks, this was a choice route, but that cornerback was playing your outside half. We know that's supposed to be a skinny post. Anyone who's got two football brain cells that rub together knows that's supposed to be a skinny post instead of running an out route, right? Yeah. So, and again, I'm not an NFL quarterback. I'm not going to sit there and act like Kurt Benkert. You know, he's been in those rooms, right? He knows all about the choice routes and how everything breaks down. So, but I hate our society and how it's always got to be that guy's fault. Somebody's got to be, you got to blame someone. So anyway, all right. So there we go. I like this comment from earlier. Smitty said, "Dear Lord, I feel low. Kenny was born on October 4th, 1995 and drafted in 2016. Yeah.
That's crazy.
A couple weeks after me. That's wild.
That's younger than Leo DiCaprio's girlfriend currently.
Jacob, you had to do it, didn't you, man?
And it's older than Bill Belichick's girlfriend.
Oh.
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
That is true, though, isn't it, Carly? It's true.
Science.
Dang.
That's what you get on this show. You get science, real science.
A little bit of everything.
None of that face. Yes. Some stuff you don't want, that's for sure. But, all right, what else did we have? We had something else I was wanting. Oh, the Jordan Love stuff. So there's still – I think it's a much smaller group that doesn't really believe that Jordan's the guy, and they do kind of cling to that first half of the season as opposed to the second half. If we hadn't seen flashes in the first half and it was just all booty cheeks, I would feel totally different about this. But there was times that you've seen him show flashes of greatness in the first half. He just couldn't get the job done in the second half of most of the games where he would throw an interception on the final drive or throw it on a first down, that type of thing. But check this out under Professor Case. Put it back up for Packers Total Science. That's a Photoshop waiting to happen, man.
I'm going to put Bill Nye in a Photoshop somewhere with Clayton.
Nice.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Oh, my God. Anyway, so Jordan Love, check this out, folks. Go ahead, Carl. Did you have something or not?
Oh, I was just going to say that those Packer fans that think that Love is not the guy based on the first part of the season, I think they're just closet Vikings fans. I don't think they actually exist.
Yep.
Could be. I'd like to believe that.
Maybe AFM. I think it's maybe just AFM.
There you go. So check this out. 33rd Team tweeted this out. This is Jordan. It says Jordan Love keeps it cool under pressure. I love the picture they chose there too. Pretty cool. So this is his EPA per play under pressure from weeks 10 through 18 in 2023. Okay, so weeks 10 through 18 through the hot streak. His EPA, expected points, okay, per play was a positive 0.15, and he led the league weeks 10 through 18 under pressure. How many times did we see him get flushed out of the pocket or him do that hop step, pop up in the pocket, pop back, throw the fade away, and it was unbelievable. Dak Prescott was the closest quarterback to him at a 0.03, all right? Then Matthew Stafford at negative 0.02. Brock Purdy, who had a hell of a year last year, a negative 0.04. Lamar Jackson, former MVP, negative 0.09. Nick Mullins, negative 0.1, albeit it was probably a small sample size. Russell Wilson next, and Desmond Ridder. Justin Herbert on down that list. Let's see. Joe Flacco had a pretty good year last year, right? He won Comeback Player of the Year. His is way lower than Jordan's. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, negative 0.27. And again, Jordan Love's is a positive 0.15. So when you talk about the things that you can't coach, one of those things that you're talking about is I'll just tell you another Jordan. When I was growing up watching Michael Jordan, that dude thrived. When the game was on the line, put the ball in my freaking hands. That's the way he's seen it, right? I don't want it in anybody else's hands. Tell you somebody else who was like that, especially in college, was Tim Tebow. That dude was like, I remember the Denver Broncos game where they ended up winning like a game in overtime or whatever. And it was coming down to the wire. And this is, he stunk it up in Denver. Let's be honest. He wasn't a good pro quarterback. But when it got to the fourth quarter close game, he went to the sideline. He looked the OC and the coach in the eye and said, "There's only one guy who gets the ball right here." That's what he said. And he went back to the huddle and they called a quarterback run. Dude was just that when the game was on the line, he just rose to the occasion. That's what you see with Jordan, and you can't put a price tag on that. That's why that dude's about to be – he might end up being the highest paid quarterback in the league. So what did you guys think about that stat there? I thought that was really cool. Do you remember the season ending like that?
I do. I keep trying to pound the table that Jordan Love had the best end of a season that compared to almost any quarterback has had in the last recent history. It was that good. I mean, we've talked about it. He was number one in touchdowns, interceptions, the quarterback rating, all that. I mean, he was number one. There was nobody else that was better than him the last like 10 or 11 games. And we did it against good competition. And he did it after the fact where people thought he was. And I think we gave him a little bit too much grief because remember, we watched these games. We were in each one of these games. There was maybe one or two games where we actually got boat raced and there really wasn't much from the offense. And we didn't have a chance to really even sneak back in there. But besides that, and you've talked about the leadership and all that kind of stuff, I think that we're on the verge of seeing some greatness from him. I really do. I'm not afraid. That's why I'm so willing to just give him the money and get that over with. Just let the guy play football. I want him on the field now. That's the whole point, because he is so intricate at being able to do things that other quarterbacks cannot do. He has the accuracy. He knows how to do the footwork. He knows how to do the mechanics now because he learned from the literal best probably in the league at the time. But he also has that weird Patrick Mahomes-esque tendencies where he can just be like, no, you know what? I'm going to run to the left. I'm just going to throw a lob over my right shoulder. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to spin around. And people sleep on the fact that he can run the ball. But I love the fact he hasn't really ever leaned into his legs. He wants to make a play. So I think the sky's still – we have not seen his ceiling whatsoever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think Ron was – Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm a little bit worried about, I think he under pressure, he does play obviously amazing. The stats show that, but I do think there's a tipping point to his pressure. And if it's above like the 99.8% or something, there's a couple times we've seen where he's kind of like lost it. And I think it's when he feels like it's the entire game on the line right there. Something has to happen. And that's when he's gonna, throw those interceptions or throw, and as opposed to taking the easy thing or running with his legs, which might get him further. That's the one thing I'm concerned about, because we saw that at the beginning of the season and everyone said, okay, he learned his lesson. He's never going to do that again. Good for him to make that mistake now. But then we saw it again at the end of the season. So I really would like to not see that again this season. It probably will because everybody does it, but I would rather not see that.
I'm glad you threw that in at the end too, because it's like, if it was that easy, right? I'm not saying you're saying it is, there'd be more great quarterbacks in the league. But the big thing, Emilio, I want to hear your point that you were getting ready to make, but it's when he made the mistakes, right? Game on the line, it was usually a first down. It's like, you don't have to make that play right now, right? Mm-hmm. Like, let's live
exactly.
And that's really what it is. It's a little bit of too much confidence in his ability, right? Like, I'm going to go win it right now, and all that takes is, game reps to get that out of him.
To that point, I love that he has that want and that ability. Like, dude, I'm going to make, because it, when the game's on the line, I want the ball. That's exactly the mentality I want him to have. It was pretty sure it was in that podcast with Sean McVay. He was saying, you're never going to learn anything if you keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? You're only going to learn something from a failure. So, yes, I know he did make those mistakes early in the season. I think he needed to make one in the playoffs too. Like, even if we swept them, right? We have no idea how that would have ended if we just, I would rather him fail early, lose that playoff game, and we come back and win 2 or 3, Lombardis or something like that, instead of going on that one, winning that one, and then it's a wrap from then on. So I like that. And I was just saying, to Ron's point here, when we watched the first half, he did look better than I remember.
Right.
Because I went back. I'm working through that the documentary by Nate, and even watching some of those plays, like that Saints game, we were down literally until the fourth quarter. So, you know what I mean? Down 17 points, and he's got that. So I know that everyone's worried, but we don't have anything to worry about him. But I do like that he's grown consistently throughout the year.
And you say they were down 17? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were down 17-0 in the top of the 13 minutes left in the fourth.
That back shoulder,
and that was that Buffalo Wild Wings one. I was tweaking out.
He was 20 feet away.
Yes, dude, I was screaming, and there was a Vikings fan sitting down, and they were just astonished. But yeah, no, that was the game.
Oh man, I wish we still had that quote. Emilio said he literally. I can't remember if he said it on the show or he texted us or what, but he said, "I'm paid too much damn money to sit on an uncomfortable seat to watch this team lose on a 32-inch TV from 20 feet away." It was so detailed, man. It was unbelievable.
But yeah, so, I mean, he's seen adversity, and we've gone through those failures. We were at that Atlanta game. He went through that failure. We were up. We should have won it. It didn't happen. So all these steps that he's taken are building blocks to him becoming, great, a leader, bringing the culture of, hey, we've lost, but we keep coming back. We're not gonna pout. We're not gonna quit. All that stuff. So
yeah, definitely. So here's another thing that came across the wire here. I'm going to get close here and read this for you. So this is kind of the breakdown. It says the second half. This is by the 33rd team on Twitter. The second half of Jordan Love's 2023 campaign was stellar. Jordan Love, weeks 1 through 9, his EPA per play was negative 0.07. That was 18th. His completion percentage was 59.6%. All right. His yards per attempt was 6.6. Now, fast forward to weeks 10 through the end of the season. His EPA per play went from negative 0.07 to a positive 0.22, third best in the league. His completion percentage went from 59% to 68%. Let me put that into perspective. Jordan Love's career completion percentage, last I checked, was 65%. So he was 3% better than Aaron Rodgers.
How many? 65?
It was 65.
65%?
65%.
65%.
That's correct. So the fact that he jumped from 59% to 68%, guys, that's a huge jump. That tells me, and here's what's crazy. Some people would probably say, oh, he probably fixed his mechanics. I remember halfway through the season, them asking Matt LaFleur, like, what do you got to do to get Jordan on track, whatever. And he's like, he's just got to go out there and be himself. I honestly think that they said, you know what, stop thinking so damn much and just go out there and spin that thing. And that's when you started seeing that hopping around in the pocket and throwing off his back foot, and all of a sudden he's dropping them in the buckets, man. Mm-hmm. And here's the other thing. His yards per attempt went from 6.6 all the way to 7.6. It says only Josh Allen at 9.6% had a lower pressure to sack rate during the second half of the season than Jordan Love. Jordan Love, weeks 1 through 9, he was blitzed 27.6%, pressured 29.4%, pressure to sack percentage 20.9%, and sack percentage was 6.5%. Now, I remember specifically people saying it's the offensive line's fault, and I pushed back going, no. They were like, I think they were like the third. They were the team that was pressured third, the least amount, like they were third best at not getting pressure on Jordan Love, meaning the offensive line protected him third best in the league. In the second half of the season, it got worse. It went from, they went from blitzing him 27% of the time to blitzing him 39% of the time. They went from a 29% pressure rate to 31%. And his pressure to sack percentage dropped from 20.9 to 11.4. He's like, all right, you want to start firing bullets? I'm telling you, man, this feels like Aaron Rodgers in the 2010 season, I remember one of the statistics, 2010 and 2011, was when they blitzed Aaron, he cut them apart. He struggled. His kryptonite was always that 2-man under because Mike McCarthy was not going to say, all right, let's run them out of that 2-man under. They still winging around the yard, and Aaron hated throwing picks. It's so scary how much Jordan's game reminds me of Aaron at every stage of his career. It's just wild, man. So
hey, Clayton, I just want to clarify one of these stats just because I'm not as familiar with it. This pressure to sack rate, is that then, so if a pressure is like 29% and pressure to sack is 20.9, does that mean 20.9% of those pressures resulted in sacks?
The way I'm reading it, and I could be wrong, Emilio, Jacob, tell me if you're reading it the same way. The way I take the pressure to sack percentage is like you say, all right, he was pressured 31.1% of the time. Of all of the pressure snaps, the snaps in which he was pressured, meaning he had a free runner in his face, and I'm sure there's some fine details to what exactly a pressure is, 11.4% of the time that he was pressured, he got sacked. That's the way I'm taking it. That makes sense. So essentially, in the first half of the season, he was pressured less and sacked more often. In the second half, he was pressured more, meaning not that he was blitzed more, although he was blitzed more, meaning pressure was on him and he took less sacks. It was just, let me translate that for you. He was an absolute dog in the second half.
Got the ball out, moved his feet, everything. So, and Prince said it a little bit going back. We were spoiled by 12, who was a master at the end of game situations. Love will get better. And then Professor Cake follows it up. Rodgers had to lose a heartbreaker in Arizona in 2009.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I'm still bitter about that, man. They about pulled his helmet off with that face mask and no flag. Gonna get me mad.
Okay, so you guys, this is a good place for this. So I was listening to a podcast. Nate Tice of The Athletic said that Love plays like he's commentating on his own game. Like, oh, all right, I'm rolling left and spine deep, lets it go up, lobs it up. I don't know. I can't do commentating, but if you think of playing Madden, where he's like, oh, here we go, doing this edge up back.
Everybody did it in their backyard as a kid, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's 4th and 36. You kidding me?
Yeah.
Bro. Watch me put a spin move on the tree right here. You know what I'm saying? Everybody did. Everybody.
Oh, dude, that's
Jacob
so
did.
funny.
He was working on generators when he was 8.
Right.
No, dude, you know what's Carly just brought back a memory that I haven't thought about in 30 years. Me and we grew up in a tiny home. My dad built it, but we had a living room that was like 6 by 8, and we had a couch. So we had like a little window, and I had a mini Green Bay football, and I was 4 years older than my brother. So we would kick and punt, and the one that could get to the next couch got a touchdown. And my brother, that poor kid, I would just elbow the kid. He'd end up crippled in the back, and my dad would come out. He'd be crying and be like, well, dude, this is football. I don't know what you want from me.
Right.
It reminds me of the Brett Favre story. Him and his brother playing in the living room. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, but I think it was on a Football Life or whatever. It was one of the 1,500 documentaries done on Brett Favre's Football Life. But he said him and his brother were playing football in the living room, and he said threw a pass, and his brother dove through the window, caught it and broke the window, right? And he said his dad came in there, old Irv Favre. That dude he looked rougher than 3 days in jail. You know what I mean? Like, he carried a belt around the house. He came in there and said, "What the hell's going on in here?" And they said Brett jumped up. Me and the little kid said, "He caught it. He caught it." So
his receiving is tough.
Perfect job. Absolutely perfect job. All right, we're at the 51-minute mark. I was going to show some salary cap stuff just to kind of button everything up, but we can do it tomorrow, and we'll have another camp practice tomorrow. Boys, how awesome is that?
Is this one padded or no?
I think it's still unpadded, but that's what I'm saying. They're like they're revamping the entire little mini camp we had in a 3 or 4 day window. We're just gonna blast everybody with the information, and then we're gonna hit the pads.
Yeah, I guess Dick in the chat said that face mask with a bunch of cussing emojis. Talking about the game against Arizona, man. That was a heartbreak, absolute heartbreak. So yeah, obviously practice tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Central Time over there at the Lambeau time, and I'm pretty sure it's unpadded. And then Saturday the pads will come on. So hopefully we'll hear something in the next few days. Got preseason game next week. I'm going to say it every time we show this. I'm so excited, man.
It's crazy.
I know it's going to be fifth stringers in there on Thursday night playing in the Hall of Fame game, but I don't even care. It's football.
I already saw a tweet about it today, Clayton. 1 week away from an NFL game. Let's go.
We made it, boys.
Oh, man.
All right. Anything else y'all want to hit on before we get out? I know we got a crowd. Let me do this. If you guys would, guys and gals, please just take a quick second, hit like for us. Feel free to sub to the channel. We really appreciate it. If you do like the video here on YouTube, it boosts the algorithm, as well as on Rumble. We're live on Rumble and on X. Feel free to follow us over there too at Packers_access. Want to give a shout out to the Patreon group as well. It's growing like crazy. Really appreciate y'all supporting the channel. I know we got to find Chewy. I haven't heard from Chewy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know.
What's he doing?
Chewy won the giveaway.
Yeah, what's going on with Chewy?
Yeah, the frame photo with.
Of course, we didn't do a double spin because we thought we would already be fine. Because
the one time we didn't, right? The one time we did. So anyway, we'll find Chewy. We'll get it to him.
We'll
but
get
the
it.
next giveaway we're going to do is we're going to give away a copy of Take Your Eye Off the Ball 2.0, a book by Pat Kerwin. Everybody here I know has that book. It's unbelievable. That was donated by United Baits to the show. So if you're a member of the Patreon group, what we do is we put everyone who's an active member of one of the 3 tiers on Patreon on a wheel, pinky wheel, Larry McCarron's pinky wheel. We spin that thing and give it away. So not his pinky. We don't give his pinky away. We give away the prize.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that actual copy of Take Your Eye Off the Ball? It's signed by Chuck Norris, right?
I don't think it is, Jacob, but I will double check. All right.
Darn it. I must have misread that in the show notes. My bad.
Unbelievable. Under promise, over deliver, Jacob. All right. Carly, you got anything else?
No, it's good. It's good to talk football.
How about these hands?
So, Emilio, what about you, man? You and your tie-dyed shirt up there tripping on.
Nothing. I'm getting in Patreon right now to tell Chewy to come get his goods.
Everybody, go spam Chewy.
Yeah.
Give him hell. All right. It's my understanding he lives like within 15 minutes of me, so I can hand deliver it. We just got to find the guy. Hopefully, he's not in the clink. Usually, when Jacob disappears, I'm like, I hope Jacob ain't in the clink. Hopefully, Chewy ain't in the clink. So
it's legit.
But yeah, legit. All right, Jacob. Anything else, man?
No, I'm just so excited. Like you talked, we almost have Packer. I mean, basically the start of football for me officially is family night. So
I thought you were going to say when pads come on. I thought, come on, you really that was a nice lead up, Jacob.
No,
when the pads come on.
Okay, fine. When the pads come on, when.
But the cream rises for you.
Yeah. All right. We're out here, guys. Really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. If you would, like I said, hit that like button on the way out. Feel free to sub to the channel. It's growing like crazy. This year is going to be phenomenal, man. You'll notice we go live every day, at least once a day, most of the time twice a day on the weekends. We'll be doing live post-game shows immediately following every game, win or loss. Believe me, I remember the losses. That's a rough show to do, but we get through it. We try to make it as easy as possible, laugh, cut up, all that good stuff. But yeah, with that being said, though, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us this evening. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.